The engagement ring was already sitting on the table, shining beneath the warm lights, and everyone in the room believed the biggest decision had already been made. Your soulmate sat quietly beside their family while conversations about the engagement moved forward as if nothing could possibly change what was about to happen. But then their mother looked directly at them and said something nobody expected to hear that night. She mentioned your name. And the moment she did, your soulmate completely froze. Listen carefully. Because what happened next was not a simple family conversation. Your soulmate's mother had been carrying something inside her for a long time, something connected to you, something she had never found the courage to say out loud. She looked at the ring on the table and asked, "Before you put that ring on someone's hand, are you absolutely certain you have forgotten the person your heart once chose?" Nobody needed to ask who she meant. Your soulmate already knew. The room suddenly became painfully quiet. A few minutes earlier, everyone had been discussing celebrations, dates, invitations, and plans for the future. Now nobody was speaking. Your soulmate stared at the engagement ring, but their thoughts were no longer focused on the person they were expected to marry. Their mind had gone directly back to you. Their mother noticed it immediately. She had seen that expression before. She had seen it whenever someone accidentally mentioned your name. She had noticed how your soulmate became unusually quiet whenever conversations turned toward the past. And she had watched them pretend for months that moving forward meant they had finally stopped caring about you. But a mother notices what other people miss. She slowly moved the engagement ring box away from your soulmate and said, "I need you to answer one question before this becomes permanent." Someone in the family tried to interrupt her. They told her this was not the right moment to bring up old memories. They reminded her how much planning had already happened and how many people were expecting this engagement to move forward. But she refused to stop. She looked at your soulmate and asked, "If you walked through that door right now and asked you not to do this, would you still pick up that ring?" Your soulmate couldn't answer. And that silence became the answer everyone feared. Don't skip what comes next, because this was the moment the entire meaning of that engagement changed. Your soulmate's mother reached into her bag and pulled out something she had secretly kept for months. It was connected to you, but your soulmate had never known she possessed it. When they saw what was in her hand, their face changed instantly. Their mother said quietly, "There is something about you that you were never told. And after you hear it, I don't know whether that ring will still be sitting on this table." Your soulmate immediately asked what she meant. That was when another family member stood up and demanded that she stop talking. Now your soulmate knew something was wrong. "Why are you trying to stop her?" they asked. Nobody answered. Your soulmate looked from one person to another, realizing that several people in that room apparently knew something they had been kept completely unaware of. Suddenly, this was no longer about choosing an engagement ring. It was about discovering why your name still had enough power to make an entire room uncomfortable. Their mother placed what she had been holding directly beside the engagement ring. Your soulmate looked down. And what they saw made them push their chair back from the table. It was proof that the story they had believed about you all these years might never have been the complete truth. Their mother finally admitted, "You thought you walked away because they stopped loving you. That isn't what happened." Your soulmate stared at her. "Then why did they leave?" Her eyes filled with emotion because she knew the next sentence could destroy everything the family had spent years trying to protect. She looked toward the engagement ring one final time and whispered, "Because someone made sure the two of you never learned the truth about each other." Your soulmate immediately asked one question. "Who?" Their mother slowly turned her eyes toward someone else sitting in that very room. And suddenly, the engagement ring didn't matter anymore. Your soulmate followed their mother's eyes across the room, and the moment they realized exactly who she was looking at, their entire expression changed. This was not some stranger from the past. This was someone they had trusted, someone who had been present during the most painful period of your separation, someone who had repeatedly told them that you had moved on and wanted nothing more to do with them. Now that same person could barely look your soulmate in the eyes. "Tell me she's wrong," your soulmate demanded. Silence. Their mother pushed the proof closer across the table. "Tell them what you did. Tell them why you disappeared from their life believing they were no longer wanted." The person finally spoke, but instead of answering directly, they said, "Everything I did was supposed to protect this family." Your soulmate stood up immediately. "Protect me from what? From the person I loved?" Nobody moved. The engagement ring remained untouched on the table. Only minutes earlier, that ring had represented a completely different future. Now your soulmate could barely look at it because one terrifying possibility had entered their mind. What if they were about to promise their life to someone else because of a lie they had believed for years? Their mother finally revealed the first piece of the truth. Back when you and your soulmate were still deeply connected, messages had been intercepted. Words meant for your soulmate never reached them. And certain things your soulmate tried to send to you had disappeared before you ever had the chance to see them. Your soulmate shook their head. "No. I waited. I waited for an answer." "And you were waiting too," their mother replied. Those words hit harder than anything else she had said. Your soulmate had spent years believing your silence meant rejection. Meanwhile, you had been given reasons to believe exactly the same thing about them. Two people had been waiting for each other while someone else quietly convinced both of them that the other had chosen to walk away. Your soulmate turned toward the person being confronted. "How long did you know?" Again, there was hesitation. "How long?" "From the beginning." Your soulmate stepped backward as though those three words had physically struck them. Their mother then opened the old envelope she had placed beside the engagement ring. Inside was something your soulmate recognized immediately. It carried a date from the exact period when everything between the two of you had fallen apart. And it had your name on it. Your soulmate reached for it with trembling hands. The person across the table suddenly said, "Please don't open that." That only made your soulmate more determined. They unfolded it. The first few lines were enough. Their breathing changed. Because this was not a goodbye from you. It was the opposite. You had been trying to explain something. You had been trying to reach them. You had written words that would have changed everything if they had arrived when they were supposed to. Your soulmate looked up with tears forming in their eyes. You had this? Nobody answered. You had this all these years? Their mother finally said, I found it recently. Hidden with several other things that should have reached you. Several other things. That phrase changed everything again. Your soulmate looked down at the ring, then back at the old envelope. One represented the future everyone expected them to accept. The other represented a past that might have been stolen from both of you. Their mother moved closer and said, I mentioned your name tonight because I couldn't watch you make a permanent decision without knowing what really happened. For the first time, your soulmate picked up the engagement ring. Everyone watched. But instead of placing it where the family expected, they slowly put it back inside the box. Click. The sound of that box closing seemed louder than anything spoken that evening. Someone immediately asked, What are you doing? Your soulmate answered, I'm not making another decision until I know everything. Then they turned toward their mother. Where is you now? Their mother hesitated. And your soulmate noticed. You know, don't you? She lowered her eyes. That was when your soulmate realized the revelation wasn't finished. Their mother didn't just know what had happened years ago. She knew something about you right now. Your soulmate stepped closer. Please. If you know where you are, tell me. Their mother finally looked up and said, Before I tell you that, there is one more thing you need to see. She reached back into her bag. This time, she pulled out something much newer than the old envelope. Something dated only days ago. And when your soulmate saw your name written across it, they whispered, They still remember me? Their mother's answer brought tears instantly to their eyes, more than you could possibly know. But before your soulmate could ask another question, their mother added one warning. If you decide to find you after seeing this, understand something, you may discover that the biggest lie wasn't about why you left. Your soulmate stared at her. Then what was it about? Their mother placed the second message directly into their hands. It was about why you were never allowed to come back. Your soulmate stood there holding that newer message, but for several seconds they couldn't bring themselves to open it. The engagement ring was still sitting inside the closed box only inches away, yet suddenly it seemed like it belonged to a life that had been planned for someone they no longer recognized. Their mother remained silent because she knew there was no gentle way to prepare them for what they were about to discover. Finally, your soulmate opened the message, and the very first sentence made their eyes fill with tears. You had never stopped caring. Even after everything that happened, even after years of believing your soulmate had willingly chosen a life without you, a part of your heart had remained connected to what the two of you once shared. Your soulmate read further and discovered something even more painful. There had been a moment when you actually tried to return. Not emotionally. not symbolically. You had made a real attempt to reconnect, to explain what happened and finally ask the questions that had remained unanswered for years. But before that could happen, someone reached you first. Someone convinced you that your soulmate had completely moved on, that they were happier without you, and that appearing again would only destroy the peace they had finally found. Your soulmate slowly lowered the message. Who told them that? Their mother didn't answer immediately. Who told you not to come back? The person who had been confronted earlier finally stood up. You need to understand what things were like then. Your soulmate turned toward them with disbelief. No. You need to understand what you took away from us. The room went completely still. For years, your soulmate had carried one painful belief, that you had chosen to disappear. Now they were discovering that both of you had been pushed in opposite directions by carefully placed lies. Every time one of you moved closer, someone created another reason for the other to step away. Their mother finally revealed why. Certain people in the family had never believed the relationship between you and your soulmate fit the future they had planned. They wanted control over what came next. They wanted a relationship they could approve, influence, and understand. And you represented something they couldn't control, because when your soulmate was with you, they made decisions from their heart rather than from family expectations. That was what frightened them. So they never needed to force your soulmate to leave you. They only needed to make both of you believe you had already lost each other. Your soulmate sat back down, overwhelmed by the realization. Memories began returning differently now. Conversations that had never made sense suddenly did. Missing messages. Strange warnings. People telling them not to contact you. Family members insisting you had moved on. Every small detail was beginning to connect. Then their eyes landed on the engagement ring again. Their mother noticed. "I am not telling you what decision to make," she said quietly. "I'm telling you that whatever decision you make tonight needs to belong to you, not to this family, not to fear, and not to a lie that started years ago." Your soulmate reached for the ring box. Everyone watched. They held it for a moment, then slid it across the table toward the other side. "I can't give someone this ring while my heart is asking me to find the truth about you." One family member immediately protested. "You're throwing away your future because of someone from your past." Your soulmate turned toward them. "No. I'm refusing to build my future on a past that was manipulated." Nobody had an answer for that. Then your soulmate asked their mother the question she had been avoiding. "Where is you?" This time she answered. But what she revealed made your soulmate grab the edge of the table. You were closer than they had imagined. And even more shocking, their mother had already spoken to someone connected to you only days earlier. That was how she had received the newer message. Your soulmate immediately reached for their phone. "What are you doing?" someone asked. "Something I should have done years ago." They began searching for a number they had once promised themselves they would never call again. But their mother gently placed her hand over the phone. Wait. Your soulmate looked at her in frustration. Why? Haven't we waited long enough? Yes, she replied. But there is something else you need to know before you hear their voice again. She walked toward a cabinet and removed one final envelope. Unlike the others, this one had never been opened. Your soulmate recognized the handwriting instantly. Yours. A date was written across the corner. It was from the night everything between the two of you had supposedly ended. Your soulmate stared at their mother. Where did you find this? In the same place as the others. Why didn't you open it? Because it wasn't written to me. She placed it into your soulmate's hands. Their fingers trembled as they broke the seal. Inside was not an accusation. Not anger. Not goodbye. It was a promise. You had written that no matter what anyone told them, your feelings had not suddenly disappeared. You had asked for one final conversation before either of you walked away permanently. That conversation never happened. Your soulmate covered their mouth as the truth finally became impossible to deny. Years of heartbreak had grown from a conversation that two people were deliberately prevented from having. Then something unexpected happened. Your soulmate's phone began ringing. Everyone looked toward the screen. Their mother froze. Your soulmate looked at the name appearing there and stopped breathing for a moment. It wasn't you. It was the person who had recently helped their mother uncover everything. Your soulmate answered. They listened without speaking. Then their expression changed completely. What do you mean you already know? Everyone around the table became silent again. The voice on the other end explained that the truth had begun reaching you too. Pieces of the same story had been uncovered from your side, and you had finally learned that your soulmate might never have abandoned you willingly. Your soulmate stood up. Did you say anything about me? There was a pause. Then came an answer that made your soulmate look immediately toward the closed engagement ring box. You had asked one question. Not whether your soulmate was married. Not whether they had forgotten you. You had asked whether it was already too late to finally tell them the truth. Your soulmate whispered, "No." Their mother looked at them. Your soulmate repeated it, this time louder. "No. Tell you it isn't too late." But the voice on the phone responded with something your soulmate wasn't expecting. They couldn't simply pass along that message. Because you had made a decision of your own. And if your soulmate truly wanted the answer they had waited years to hear, there was only one way they were going to get it. They would have to meet you face to face. Your soulmate slowly looked down at the engagement ring one final time. Then they picked up their keys. And this time, when the family tried to stop them, their mother stepped between them and the door. "Let them go," she said. Because after years of other people deciding what happened between you and your soulmate, the next chapter was finally going to belong to the two people who should have been allowed to choose from the beginning. Your soulmate walked out of that house without looking back, but every step toward the car carried the weight of all those lost years. Their hands were still trembling as they opened the door, because this was no longer simply about seeing you again. They were about to stand face to face with the person they had spent years trying to forget, only to discover that forgetting had never truly happened. The engagement ring remained behind on the table, closed inside its box, while your soulmate drove toward the one conversation that should have happened long ago. During that drive, memories came rushing back one after another. The last time they saw you. The final words they thought you meant. The messages that never received answers. The nights they stared at their phone wondering why you could walk away so easily. Now they understood something devastating. Maybe you had been sitting somewhere asking exactly the same questions about them. Their phone rang again. It was their mother. For a moment, your soulmate considered ignoring it, but eventually answered. "I need to tell you one last thing," she said. Your soulmate tightened their grip on the steering wheel. What else could there possibly be? Their mother paused before answering. The engagement wasn't the reason I finally spoke tonight. Your soulmate became silent. She explained that earlier that day, she had received information that changed everything. Someone connected to you had contacted her and revealed that you had recently started asking questions about what truly happened years ago. You had found one missing piece of the story, and that single discovery had made you question everything you had been told about your soulmate. That was why their mother could no longer stay quiet. She knew if that engagement ring went onto someone else's hand tonight, a decision might become permanent only hours before the truth finally reached both of you. Your soulmate whispered, "So you were already looking for me?" "Not exactly," their mother replied. "You were looking for the truth. Whether that truth leads back to you, that is something only the two of you can decide." Those words stayed with your soulmate for the rest of the drive. Because suddenly they understood this meeting could not be about demanding another chance. Too much time had passed. Too much had happened. You had your own life, your own wounds, your own reasons to be cautious. All your soulmate could do was finally tell the truth. When they reached the meeting place, they parked but remained inside the car. For several moments, they couldn't move. They had imagined seeing you again hundreds of times, but never like this. Never after discovering that the separation itself might have been built on deception. Then they saw someone standing in the distance. You. Your soulmate froze. Time seemed to disappear. For one brief second, all those years between the two of you felt like nothing. You looked different in ways time naturally changes a person, but there was something in your expression your soulmate recognized immediately. The same emotion was there. The same unanswered question. Your soulmate stepped out of the car. Neither of you rushed toward the other. Neither of you knew what the first words should be. Finally, your soulmate said your name. Just your name. And hearing it spoken after so long made everything suddenly real. You looked at them and quietly asked, "Did you know?" Your soulmate shook their head. "No." "Did you?" You shook your head too. That was the moment both of you understood the cruelest part of the story. Neither had knowingly abandoned the other. Your soulmate took the old letter from their pocket and held it up. I got this tonight. You recognized it immediately. Your expression changed. I wrote that for you. I know. I thought you read it. I never saw it until tonight. You looked away, struggling with the emotion of hearing those words. Then you reached into your own pocket and pulled out something your soulmate never expected. Another message. One your soulmate had written years ago. One you had never received when it mattered. Now there was no denying it. Both sides had evidence. Both sides had been reaching out. Both sides had been convinced the other had chosen silence. Your soulmate stared at the message in your hand and whispered, "They did it to both of us." You answered quietly, "Yes." For several moments, neither of you spoke. There was anger, heartbreak, relief, confusion, and something much deeper moving through that silence. Then you asked the question your soulmate knew was coming. What about the engagement? Your soulmate looked directly at you. The ring is still on the table. You lowered your eyes. Your soulmate continued, "I didn't come here expecting you to take me back. I didn't come here asking you to forget everything that happened. I came because for once, I wanted you to hear the truth directly from me." You looked back at them. And your soulmate finally said the words they should have been allowed to say years earlier. "I never stopped caring because I wanted to. I stopped reaching because I believed you didn't want me anymore." Your eyes filled with emotion. Because your answer was almost identical. "I stopped reaching because they told me you had chosen someone else." Your soulmate closed their eyes. There it was. The missing conversation. The truth that could have changed years of both your lives. But before either of you could say anything more, your soulmate's phone buzzed. A message from their mother. They opened it. And what they read made them immediately look at you. Their mother had discovered one final piece of information. The person who interfered years ago had finally admitted why they had done it. But that confession contained another name. Someone neither you nor your soulmate had suspected. Someone who had been much closer to the entire situation than either of you realized. Your soulmate showed you the message. You read the name. And your face went completely still. Your soulmate noticed immediately. "You know this person?" You didn't answer at first. Then you looked directly into their eyes and said something that changed the entire direction of the night. "Yes." Your soulmate waited. You took a slow breath. "And if that person was involved from the beginning, then there is something about our separation that even your mother still doesn't know." Your soulmate stared at you. "What?" You reached for the old message you had carried with you. But instead of showing the front, you turned it over. There was something written on the back. Something your soulmate had never written. A warning. A date. And one sentence that proved the plan to separate the two of you had started much earlier than anyone had admitted. Your soulmate read it twice. Then looked at you in disbelief. Because suddenly both of you realized the engagement ring sitting back on that table was only the smallest part of what had been uncovered tonight. The real question was no longer whether your soulmate would return and complete the engagement. The real question was what would happen when the two of you finally confronted the person who had spent years making sure you never found your way back to each other.